door thump open behind me, but I didn't turn around. Heavy steps approached in a cadence that I knew well, even though no chainmail or spurs jingled. Not here in this modern world of cars and cell phones. The man leaned against the bar and jerked his head at the bartender, who immediately dropped a cold beer in front of him. In the original legend, Bors was supposedly my cousin. In this lifetime, we weren't related by blood or house at all. Yet somehow Bors and I had found each other, even without our queen's call. There was an echo between us, a resonant memory of all that had passed before. He was one of the good guys. I could trust him, even with my queen. I knew it as surely as I knew that Guinevere lived again. She had loved him once upon a time. She would love him again, as I did. For nearly 400 years we'd roamed the remotest places that remained on earth, trying to stay sane and free until our queen could call us. "You're late," I said gruffly, turning to face him. About my height, but thicker, with solid muscle, Bors was dressed like a modern human in ripped, worn jeans, a plain white t-shirt, and heavy motorcycle boots. He wore his dark hair buzzed short, giving him a mean, fierce look. Not that he needed any help looking tough with all those tats covering his arms and the scar across his forehead. Without answering, he tipped his head back and drained the bottle in one long swig, opening his throat so the liquid poured into his body without the need for swallowing. He fed exactly the same way, preferring to puncture the biggest vein and guzzle the resulting fountain as it poured down his throat. My cock throbbed. It had been entirely too long since either of us had fed, but we had to be careful. Most Aima could sniff each other out over time, especially if they were feeding. At heart, we were predators. Blood on the air was just as attractive to us as chum in the water for sharks, and Aima blood carried a special pheromone that was a dead giveaway to our kind. I couldn't remember all of the other lifetimes I'd lived out this dire curse, but betrayal was always at the core of my failure to save Guinevere. It wasn't that I distrusted Bors, not at all, but if we were together, it would make it easier to kill two of our queen's blood before she could even call us. Until she sealed our bonds, we had no power. While we were physically stronger and faster than humans, we couldn't shift until our queen's blood flowed in us, which made us nothing more than pawns on the triune chessboard, easily picked off and leaving our queen exposed. However, pawns had the freedom to move on the board at will, and so that's what we did. We stayed away from each other to maximize our coverage on the playing field, while staying out of any other queen's reach, because that was definitely something I'd learned long ago. Some queens call the blood for love, others call the blood for power, regardless of the blood's desire to serve her. A queen could force a bond on even the most unwilling blood if she was determined enough. The memory of being trapped in such a blood bond lifetimes ago still made knives twist deep in my stomach. I turned back to the bartender, grabbed what remained of the bottle, and headed for a table in the corner. Another man sat with his back to the wall, watching the room without moving a muscle. Even though we hadn't come into our power yet without our queen, Mordred could hide in plain sight. A trick of light and shadow, or simple illusion. I wasn't sure. He wasn't invisible, but he could make my eyes skip right over him if I wasn't paying attention. He'd been fucked over by history, too. If Guinevere's adultery was blamed for Camelot's fall, Mordred was labeled a traitor, and Arthur's death laid at his feet. Most stories had him killing the great king and dying on the battlefield. Sometimes he was even Arthur's son. Some said he'd tried to steal the throne from Arthur while he was away trying to kill me for falling in love with Guinevere. Others had Mordred marrying Guinevere, which was closer to the truth than anything else. I took a seat opposite him, and Bors sat between us, positioned to keep an eye on the door. Mordred had chosen a remote island off the coast of South America as his hiding place. Bors roamed Tibet. I'd chosen the Gibson Desert of Australia, our current meeting place. I was sure more of the original